I'm not your son anymore. Those 5 words, cold, sharp, and final as a gunshot, hung in the air of the kitchen, where just a second earlier the scent of cinnamon and toast had filled the room. Martha Harper froze, tea kettle in hand, as if struck by lightning. The water inside, freshly boiled, began to hiss softly, but she didn't hear it. All she heard was the echo of those words reverberating in her chest like the toll of a bell in an empty cathedral. Her son, Michael, stood by the door, dressed in a suit, briefcase in hand, his face a stranger's. His eyes, the same warm brown as her father's, were now icy, devoid of warmth or doubt. He hadn't shouted. He hadn't cursed. He'd simply said it and turned to leave. "Michael," she whispered, but the door had already slammed shut. The silence that followed was heavier than the kind that follows a funeral. Martha Harper was a woman who thrived on order. At 72, she still rose at 6, drank a cup of black tea with lemon, walked her dog, an aging Labrador named Bella, and every Sunday cooked a family dinner. At least, she used to, before everything fell apart. She lived in the house her husband, Tom, had built in 1978, a quiet Chicago suburb with tall trees and neatly trimmed lawns. It wasn't grand, but it was home. Hardwood floors, an old stove Tom refused to replace, and a porch where they'd sat on summer evenings listening to crickets sing. Tom had died 5 years ago, suddenly, from a heart attack, without warning. Martha was left alone, but not entirely. She had 2 children, Michael, the elder, a lawyer living downtown with his wife and 2 kids, and Sarah, the younger, a divorced elementary school teacher in a neighboring state who visited often. At first, things were fine. The kids called, came for holidays, helped with repairs and groceries. But slowly, something shifted imperceptibly at first, like a hairline crack in a porcelain cup you only notice when it's beyond repair. The first warning came over the house. "Mom, you shouldn't live here alone," Michael said one evening over dinner. "The house is too big. You can't manage it. Maybe sell it and move somewhere safer, or at least into assisted living." Martha laughed, not bitterly, but with quiet irritation. "I've lived here for 40 years, Michael. I know every creak on that staircase and every crack in the fence. This is my home. I'm not leaving." "But you fell last winter," Sarah interjected. "What if you'd been alone and couldn't get up?" "I got up," Martha said flatly. "And Bella was there." But her children wouldn't let it go. They started visiting more often, not just to see her, but with plans, proposals, reasonable arguments. Michael brought a realtor to appraise the house. Sarah began collecting brochures for senior living communities. Martha felt her life shrinking, as if she were being stuffed into a box she never asked for. Then came the money issue. Tom had left them a modest inheritance, enough for Martha to live comfortably for the rest of her days. But Michael, ever the lawyer, insisted the funds needed to be managed responsibly. He proposed setting up a trust, naming himself as trustee. "It's for your own protection, Mom. So no one takes advantage of you," he said. Martha wasn't naive. She knew scammers existed. But she also knew she had a mind of her own and a savings account she'd managed since she was 18. She refused. "You don't trust me?" Michael asked, his voice tinged with hurt and frustration. "I trust myself," she replied. That was the first time a real wall rose between them. Then came the breaking point. Martha decided to go to Europe. She'd always dreamed of seeing Paris. Tom had promised to take her for their 40th anniversary, but never got the chance. Now, 30 years later, she decided to go alone. She bought tickets, booked a hotel, even signed up for a Louvre tour. When she told her children, their reaction was explosive. "You're serious?" Michael nearly jumped from his chair. "You're 72. You can't just fly off by yourself." "Why not?" she asked calmly. "I'm healthy. I have travel insurance. I even saved the embassy's emergency number. What if you get lost? What if you get sick? Then I'll call. Like any adult would." "You don't understand, Mom. This is irresponsible." "Irresponsible is deciding for me where I can go and when," she said firmly. That was the trip. She spent 10 days in Paris, walking along the Seine, eating croissants in tiny cafes, crying at the foot of the Eiffel Tower, not from joy, but because Tom wasn't there. But for the first time in years, she felt truly alive. When she returned, Michael didn't come to pick her up. He sent Sarah. "He's furious, Mom," Sarah said, helping with the suitcases. "He thinks you've put your health and future at risk." "You mean he's angry I threatened his control," Martha said quietly. A week later, Michael came, polite but distant. He brought papers again, about the trust. He said, "If you can't make sound decisions, we may have to go to court." That's when Martha understood. He no longer saw her as his mother. He saw a problem, a liability, a risk. "You want to take away my right to live my own life?" she asked. "I want to protect you," he replied. From what? From freedom? From happiness? From foolishness? The word hung in the air like poison. "You think my dream is foolish? I think at your age, you should be thinking about safety, not adventures." "And when was the last time you dreamed, Michael?" she asked. "When did you last do something just because you wanted to?" He didn't answer, just clenched his jaw. "You've grown up," she said, "but you've forgotten how to be human." And then he said those 5 words. "I'm not your son anymore." A week passed. Martha didn't call, didn't write. She tended her garden, walked Bella, read books. But inside, she felt hollow, as if her heart had been removed, leaving only a shell. One evening, the doorbell rang. It was Sarah. "Mom, can I come in?" Martha nodded. They sat on the porch. It was warm, the air sweet with jasmine. "He wasn't joking," Sarah said. "He really believes you've lost touch with reality." "And you?" Sarah sighed. "I think you're both right. And both wrong." Martha looked at her daughter. Her eyes held exhaustion, but also love. "He's afraid, Mom. Afraid of losing you. Afraid you'll fall, get sick, die, and he won't be able to control it. He's used to being in charge. And you're slipping away." "I'm not dying, Sarah. I'm living. I know. And I'm proud of you. But maybe you should talk? Really talk." Martha was silent for a long moment. "He doesn't want to hear me. He wants me to obey. And you want him to respect you." "Yes." "Then start there. Not with hurt. With respect." The next day, Martha wrote Michael a letter. Not a text. Not an email. A real letter on paper, in blue ink, just like her grandmother used to write. "Michael, I don't want to lose you. I know you're afraid for me. And I'm grateful for that. But fear shouldn't become a prison for me or for you. I am your mother. But I am also Martha, a woman with dreams, mistakes, and desires. I'm not perfect, but I deserve to be heard. Let's find a way to be family, not as guardian and ward, but as 2 adults who love each other, even when we don't always understand. I will always be your mom, even if you say I'm no longer your mother. With love, Mom." She mailed it the old-fashioned way. Didn't expect a reply. She just did what felt right. 3 days later, Michael came. No suit. Just jeans and a t-shirt. No briefcase. Just a cake in his hands, her favorite, caramel and nuts. They sat in the kitchen. Said nothing for a long time. "I'm sorry," he finally said. I didn't mean to hurt you." "Neither did I," she replied. "I'm scared, Mom. Really scared. I know. I just don't want anything to happen to you. I don't want anything to happen to you either. But you can't live my life for me. And I can't live yours." He nodded. His eyes glistened. "Will you tell me about Paris?" She smiled. "Only if you pour me some tea." Family conflicts aren't always shouting matches or shattered dishes. Sometimes they're silence. Sometimes they're cold words. Sometimes they're fear disguised as care and love disguised as stubbornness. Martha learned that aging isn't an ending. It's a new chapter. And in it, just like in any other, there's room for mistakes, reconciliation, and even dreams. And Michael learned that being an adult isn't about control. It's about trust, even when you're afraid. They didn't become a perfect family, but they became honest. And sometimes that's enough.